you try shit, and then like a couple days later, you're like, let me reconfigure and see what it looks like. But without digital, there's no way I'd reconfigure. So I love it. It's made me a better filmmaker over the years. Like I got better because of Avid. That's the thing. I didn't go to film school, and Avid's like the closest thing I had to film school because like it's a technology you have to kind of teach and reteach yourself each time you're sitting down at the deck because you don't really sit down like every day of your life, right? You'll sit down intensively for months at a clip, and then you won't see the Avid again for a year or 2 years or something like that. And then you get reacquainted and relearn it and shit. And it's just been the thing that I credit most with like turning me into an honest to goodness filmmaker, because the tech and the ability to kind of shape the story, reshape the story, just by what you do in editing in general, but you get to shape it a lot more in Avid just by virtue of the fact you can try so many fucking things, put it right back the way it was. Like you can be experimental and throw a different cut up, or let me see if this works, and try it in a way that we never would back in the day. But yeah, I mean, for me, honestly, the movie, like this time around, I didn't really direct it. I edited it, and I would come in and show cats the movie every morning and be like, this is what it looks like. 'Cause it's so easy. It's tough to really communicate thought, right? To like tell people what you're seeing in your head. And that's kind of the idea behind film, is that usually filmmakers try and just tell you what they see in their head. They tell you the story that they see in their head, make it a little more real or something like that, or at least put it on the celluloid. And it's so much easier to communicate an idea when you can just open up your laptop and be like, this is the movie. This is what the movie looks like. And then they're like, oh, and everybody's on the same page. So this flick, like I've been cutting while shooting since Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, but this one turned into overdrive by virtue of the fact that like we were shooting red in those Canon 5D or 7D cameras. Like the workflow was insane. You just take out a card, drop it into the Avid, and boom, it was all there. So you weren't waiting like 2 days for dailies and shit like back in the day. And because of that, because the turnaround, the workflow was so fucking fast, I was able to like be cutting the next morning shit that we shot like the night before, the day before, and I'm the cutter. I don't really turn it over to somebody else. I sit there and cut myself. So I worked it out with the crew and the cast where I said, hey man, I'm going to come in, if like call time 7 o'clock, I'm going to come in at 8. Here's the first shot of the day, set up for that, and I'm going to pull up, and then we're going to shoot right away. Because I'm going to stay home for an extra hour, hour and a half, and just cut. And that's what I did the whole time. I just sat there cutting the movie, and then at a certain point, like I was like, man, it'd be fun. Like, it became like a little challenge where I was like, I've always wanted to be able to say that we were done cutting by the wrap party. And so I was like, let me see if we can do it. And we were getting close. And so we wrapped, and I think it was a day and a half later, about 36 hours later, we had a wrap party where we showed them the entire movie, and it was cut, and that was the same version that we showed at Sundance. This version's about 7 minutes shorter. But yeah, it was edited. This movie's not directed as much as it's edited, and if it wasn't for that system, it wouldn't be nearly the fucking flick it is. Powerful system.
Did you plan to shoot it in chronological order or in an order that you knew would help in cutting?
Not really, but it was one of those things you don't want to request because that's like kind of a convenience for you as the editor. You know, in a perfect world, you'll cut in sequence. And really, it doesn't even matter to the editor and me, but it mattered to the storyteller and me because I knew that the moment I cut the scene, I was going to want to show people. And so you hope that they were in order, so at least there was a kind of flow of the movie, even though it's tiny bits of it. 10-minute sequence of the movie you're watching, you at least want it to be kind of sequential, the way it would be in the flick or something like that. So, I mean, you get lucky sometimes. Adam Drucksmann was our AD, and he was just like, the way I can schedule this thing, we didn't have our Keenan. Like, we didn't start the movie with Goodman Locke because he was still, as far as we know, working on Treme, and then we found out his character died, and we were like, rock. So, we were starting without him, and because of that, Keenan doesn't come in until like the halfway point anywhere, 35-minute mark or something. So because of that, we were able to shoot like the whole first act of the movie without him, you know what I'm saying, without even having a Keenan cast. So it was real, like, I wouldn't say incredibly seat of your pants, but it was an indie flick, man, so there was definitely kind of like, let's just keep shooting and hopefully it'll work itself out. And it did, in the case of Goodman, really work itself out when we scored him. Did I answer the question? I'm sorry, I got lost.
And then some.
So, what format did you, you mentioned red and 5D?
Yeah, we mentioned the red camera is predominantly we shot at, I would say like 95% of the movie, 90 to 95% of the movie's on the red. And not even like the brand new red, just the red that everyone was using up till recently. And then for the cage stuff, for all the close stuff, when Kyle was in the cage and they bring him into the chapel, for all the running shit in the house when they're chasing Michael Angarano through the house, that was a Canon 5D or 7D. I think it was. I want to say it was a 5D. I don't even think it was a 7D. But it was astounding, man. I was just like, you're kidding me. It looks like a Peter Parker camera, like the, what a scoop kind of photographic journalist camera. But it shoots fucking high definition video or digital media. Is crazy. And it allows you to get into tight space. Like Dave essentially just mounted that camera, the Canon, right to a kind of bar that was sticking out of the cage, and the dudes who were pushing the cage along provided kind of shadows, a bunch of lights, about 4 lights in the hallway. That they just kept ducking in front of them. You could see pieces of them from time to time. So it was just incredibly convenient. We were in a small space, and the small camera makes an absolute sense, helps. Those are the two medias we shot on, Red and Canon.
I have a question about the one part in the end when the horn is blowing.
Yeah.
I mean, that was planned, or was that something that you wrote in the script, or as during production?
Originally, in the first draft of the script, we actually took it further, and there was an angel. You saw an angel. Like at one point, their chests started exploding. The 5 pointers. Comes to that point where Avon Cooper's right in the face of Keenan. He's like, "Shoot me!" And we come up that high overhead. In the script, first draft of the script, he was like, "Shoot me!" And then poof, his chest exploded. And then boom, another one. Boom, all the 5 pointers' chests started exploding. The believers and stuff. And the ATF people, chests started exploding. And Keenan just kind of holding his ears because the horn's getting louder and louder and louder. And he closes his eyes, just goes fetal, and then he opens it up, and you see the last 5-pointer just kind of like this, with a giant hole through their chest and piece of what looks like a giant tip of a sword. And then behind him was this massive angel with wings. He just pulled the fucking sword out, and the body dropped, and he looked at Keenan, and he was like, "Shh," and he took off, and Keenan watched him go. And as the angel went that way, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse filled the sky. Credits. So it was a little bleak. And also, it's not, I can't afford that. I couldn't afford that. We couldn't afford this movie at $4 million. Somehow we found a way to do it. To include that scene, forget it, it's cost prohibitive. So at that point, I was like, all right, we're not going to be able to do the fucking, the weird angel ending. What do we do? How far can I take it? And then I realized, if I just dial it back a little bit, I can have my cake and eat it too. I can give you the impression that, any minute now, Ben Affleck's going to come down in wings. And that's because of our previous body of work. But then, at the end of the day, we get to have our cake and eat it too and not do that. And there was a friend of mine who has expressed to me, like, after they read that script, that first version of the script, they're like, what's with the ending? I was like, it's just kind of a placeholder ending right now. I said, why, you don't dig it? And the dude was just like, it sends a very mixed message that you may believe all this. And I was just like, yeah, but I do. I'm Christian. And he's like, yeah, but you don't believe, fucking heaven and hell and boogeyman and shit. I was like, yeah, some days. Some days I believe in heaven. I try to believe in heaven. I don't want to believe in hell and stuff like that. And so I started thinking, like, that is a weird kind of message to throw out there, particularly for the movie. So I was like, you know what, I'll just dial it back to the place it is.